Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 26th, 2020 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. This evening, we entered our agenda review at approximately 5:30 p.m. And then at approximately 6:30 p.m., we had a motion by Ms. Miller-Herrera and a second by Mr. Christou to enter executive session. All voting in favor to do so, to discuss two items, Buckwald Ziskowski versus the town at all with Deputy Chief Mike Brown as an invited guest, and then discussion of employee number 06262019, resignation in a disciplinary proceeding. We then exited executive session at approximately 6:49 p.m. with a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Mr. Guidarelli, all voting in favor. And then we adjourned the meeting at approximately 6:50 p.m. with a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Mr. Guidarelli, and again, all voting in favor of that motion. So Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christou?
Present.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Present.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera?
Present.
Mr. Signor?
Present.
Mr. Thomasson?
Present.
5 present.
Okay, would you all please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So we have several people who have signed up this evening to come to speak to us. So I'm just going to go over we call them, we'll just say ground rules for coming to speak at the podium. So what will happen is Ms. Marco will call your name and come up and give your name and address for the record. Then what I'll do is when you get to about 3 minutes of time, I'll put my hand up once, and you don't have to pay attention to me doing this all the time, don't misinterpret me. And then that means that 3 minutes has passed, and I'll put my hand up again when 4 minutes has passed. I won't gavel you out. If you want to just wrap up your comments at that point, just so that everyone has a chance to come up and speak this evening, okay? So at this time, we'll enter public comment privilege of the floor. Ms. Marco.
Jack Dodson?
Good evening, Jack Dodson, 1311 Cipriana Terrace. May I approach? I do have extra. You'll be one short. Let's see, I am here tonight to speak regarding Whispering Pines. For me, I'm going to call this Whispering Pines 3. As we all know, there was an appellate court decision recently rendered that I'll call a split decision. That decision being, again, that the court determined that the Whispering Pines area that it's in is not considered spot zoning, but at the same time, it invalidated senior living district law, and that's what's on the agenda that I see tonight. There's a lot of stuff on the agenda pertaining, again, to the senior district law and how we're going to proceed with this round 3. One of the things I'd just like to offer again is this has been a protracted, 3 now going on 4-year projects. As you well know, there was a lot of opposition on this project as we've gone through it, resulted in litigation. The litigation's over. I'm here tonight really to talk to the board about maybe even a compromise on this project. We can continue going down the road that we're going down, but I would respectfully request at this point in time that we reset the clock on this project, okay? As we've contended for the last 3 years, there's no one in my area of the town that wants to prevent senior living in the town of Rotterdam. I think that we can all say that we're for senior living. That's not the issue. In addition to that, we're not against what we consider as a senior living project in our neighborhood, okay, that fits in with the character of the neighborhood. Now, in light of the fact that we've been involved with this project for the last 3 years, we've learned a lot of good information. And one of the things that I would ask the board to consider again is, we've learned from the senior living district law that there's some things in there that can be tightened up a little bit to protect not only the town's interests in my mind, but the people that are going to reside in there. You know, one of the things that pops up really quick for me, based on the plans that have been submitted, is the lot line of the cottages is the foundation of the buildings, and 20 feet away is your neighbor. You know, that presents an issue to me. That's pretty tight. So you have an opportunity to look at that, and keep in mind that that's a cottage that's owned by the property owner and the building, including the roof. So that's not a condominium here. This is them owning all that. So they got to provide their their homeowners insurance, and you know, they got to maintain their own properties. And what do they get for $165 a month? Is someone coming and mowing their lawn and maybe plowing their driveways. I'm not so thinking that's senior living, given the fact that these places are 1,100 square feet, and we're left roughly looking at $225,000 to $240,000. That just seems a lot to me. So what I'm asking for is, why doesn't the town consider some stakeholder meetings as we move forward, and why can't there be a compromise? And a compromise is a concession amongst all parties as we move forward with this project, so that in the end we end up with good senior living for our seniors in the town of Rotterdam. With that, I just wanted to move on quick to Rotterdam Pop Warner. This is not the first time that this issue has come up for Rotterdam Pop Warner. It happened roughly 10 years ago. Now we're right back to the same thing. One of the things that I'd ask the town board is, we have Parks Funds money. This place is located in a fantastic location. The Gillespie Group has been fantastic over the years, allowing this use on their property with a licensing agreement. You know, why would the town consider going in here and acquiring this property, okay, and making it available for the youth of our community? But not just for our youth. We have a 2020 celebration coming up. This is a perfect location in the town of Rotterdam to have events for the public. You could have fairs there. It would fit in fantastically with a 2020 celebration, because where do we have this land available? It's already got a track around it. We have schools we have to go to for tracks. It just offers a lot of advantage. My recommendation to the town board is to really consider using this, in my mind, as some form of a town park. That would be a great idea. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Josh Blair.
Josh Blair, 942 Central Parkway, Schenectady, New York, 12309. Good evening. I'm here tonight along with my fellow board members from Tri-City BMX. Tri-City BMX is an all-volunteer, not-for-profit organization located in Rotterdam, New York. We've been a part of the community and incorporated since 1981. I'd like to reiterate that Tri-City is an all-volunteer organization. No one is paid for the countless hours we dedicate to a sport we all love in the community that we serve. Interestingly enough, while I was getting ready for tonight, I started counting up everyone's hours of experience who sits on the board. We have over 130 years of experience sitting on our board. Where I come from, we would be subject matter experts. When I tell people that my family is a BMX family, a common question I'm often asked is, what is BMX? First, I'd like to tell you what BMX is not. BMX is not dirt bikes. The only motors that we have are our legs right here. BMX is not the X Games. We're not doing huge jumps and backflips that are extremely dangerous. And lastly, BMX is not a bunch of punk kids riding their bikes around, putting up graffiti, and causing havoc and headaches. BMX is an Olympic sport. It has been since 2008 and will be part of the 2020 Olympics in Japan. BMX is a family-friendly sport where riders from 2 years old to over 65 years old ride. BMX is a sport where all skill levels are welcome, no one ever sits on the bench, and where families can enjoy the sport together. That's something that most youth sports cannot say today. Also, unlike most other sports, BMX gives children a hands-on approach to developing STEM skills. Some of these examples include learning about mechanics by bike maintenance, rolling resistance with tire pressure and tread patterns, momentum for keeping up speed going uphill, leverage from the crank or pedal arm length, and gearing on the sprockets in the rear, the front and the rear of the bike. Earlier this month, some of the board members met with the Park and Recreation Committee. We gave a presentation about who we are, what we do, our positive impact on the community, and the things we need to do to continue to grow. It was recommended to us during that committee meeting that we use this time on the floor to introduce ourselves to the town board and ask to be calendared to give a full PowerPoint presentation. Therefore, tonight we're asking your permission to be added to the March 25th, 2020 town board meeting. In concert with this request tonight, we've also spoken with Dana Asta to secure that date in March. In closing, we want to thank you for giving us the time to speak with you tonight, and we look forward to next month for a larger presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You want me to have that be part of the record?
Do you want it?
It's up to you.
I can email it to you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
William Peck.
Hi, my name is William Peck. I live at 1005 Spruce Street, which is about 2 blocks from here. Hello, my name is William Peck. I'm 36. I have 3 kids, ages 13, 9, and 8. I have lived in Rotterdam most of my life, and I'm a coach for the Rotterdam Raiders. I grew up on Wellington Ave playing football for the Rotterdam Raiders. We may not have won a lot, but my teammates and I knew Monday through Thursday there was football no matter what. Because of this foundation that I have, the 2 boys that I had, when he turned 5, football we went. The relationships that my son has made on that field, he has carried with him into a 5-0 season for Mohan Modified, playing with the same group of boys that he met on Rotterdam Field. These relationships are also beneficial to our children's social, mental, and emotional development. Sports outside of schools allows our children to build relationships with others ordinarily they would not have met. There are pictures of my team still on the Rotterdam walls, and I can reach out to half of them right now. While I agree that we don't talk much, I might not be up to date with our lives, we will always have football together, and that'll never change. Those memories, those bonds, they will always remain intact. I tell you these things so you can fully understand what this field means to the youth and its community. Last season, something amazing happened. We were able to take a team that has never played together before. We went 6-0 in an undefeated season, and we went second in the tournament with a 5-2 record. This ignited a flame in my boys that shocked the parents and the coaches. It wasn't just the kids though. The parents really came together, helping out and being supportive, even after we screamed to go take a lap. Again, I tell you this so you may fully understand how important this field is to the youth and its community. My boys don't want to play for Shelmont. They don't want to play for Schenectady. We represent Rotterdam proudly, and we'd like to continue to do so this season and every season after. I have heard that people don't know that we exist or that our facilities aren't being used, and this is completely untrue. Pop Warner is alive and starting to grow again. Mohan Youth knocked down our numbers, which happens, but with the kids, parents, and the community behind us, we will continue to grow. I know I don't speak for the entire town, but one thing that I do see is more apartments and less sports fields. For example, the baseball field on North Thompson Street we lost due to 2 apartments, and here we are again in a fight to save our field because car storage is more important in our youth. Town puts not a lot of effort into the youth programs or their fields, and with the ongoing drug problem and the dwindling out of school sports available to the community, what are our kids to do? Right there is about a third of my team, and their families who are here saying, please don't let this happen. Adult politics have crushed kids' want, fire, and drive to play sports, and we simply cannot allow it to happen. So many good things happen at every single game. Our parents were the first ones there. We always had the most cheering on the sidelines. Family, friends, and neighbors were coming out to the games just to watch and cheer. If you don't believe, then I implore you to pause this for a year and come out yourselves to the games and feel the energy between the coaches, the players, and the families, and see the fire these boys have for the game of football that they have come to love so much. Please don't take away the fire that my boys have for football, their passion and desire to represent the town they love. I know an amazing coach that once said, the name on the front of your jersey represents who you play for, and the name on the back represents who raised you. And make sure you represent both the right way. We represent Rotterdam, and we'd like to continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, more?
Rick Moore, 2026 West Side Avenue. I just wanted to say that I've been noticing over, say, the last 15, 20 years now, that there's been a bad precedence going on. First, we had Rotterdam Little League, which was a great league, a lot of places for the kids, there's many kids in it, that got bought out from underneath us. So there goes baseball, which was the #1 sport in Rotterdam. Rotterdam's been top in the sports right along. Then, now it looks like we're gonna be doing that with Pop Warner football. We cannot keep letting all the sporting events or even any activities for the youth. Your community grows through its youth. If you're killing off all the programs for youth, pretty soon, you're gonna have all your families move the hell out of Rotterdam, and then it's gonna be a senior citizen town, which seems like that's what they gear towards anyways, is everything's for the senior citizens. The problem is senior citizens, I'm a senior citizen, we end up dying off. And then if you haven't kept your youth and got something in the community for your youth, you're gonna have nothing. When they die off, you got nothing. Because the youth is what everything grows through. So you have to do right by the youth. And we can't keep taking and wiping out programs for these kids. Because eventually, we already have it now. As soon as kids get out of high school, they're gone. We're just making the situation worse. We gotta start putting our kids first. That's all I wanted to say.
Robert Gigliardi.
How you doing? All right, I'm Robert Gagliardi, 1114 Inter Drive, Schenectady. I'm here in favor of Pop Warner and AC's towing. It seems like we're blaming a person here, and specifically AC's towing for this situation. Pop Warner, I played on Pop Warner, and it's the only place I'm not well spoken, I didn't have a thing. I just brought a blank piece of paper to fiddle with. So they should always have a place to play. Unfortunately, it's in an industrial park and it's never been good. People try. You guys try hard, keep trying, right? We're dragging this guy's name through the mud. Anybody can buy that building, we can all go buy it. All right, I can open a taco shop there or something, right? You know, anything. He doesn't feel good about what it'll do. That guy back there that wants to buy the property doesn't want this to happen this way, right? I probably did today for $3, right? Free. Spent 8 hours trying to come up with a solution. I'm nobody. A little bit. So, I found 2 maybe options. There's the old WMYT building, or WMHT, whatever it is, News 4, building in the back. I showed up there. Looks like the town road, I don't know, Tulip Street, goes right up to it, and there may be access to the park there at the corner. All right, I don't know. I don't know. I went there. I spent time there, which is more than probably a lot of people that may speak tonight, but maybe not. I don't know. I know what I did today, and it took a whole day. I spoke with the owner of that property, and he's unsure of that area too. I think he thinks he owns it. He might not. That's a way to access the park. Also on Fern Ave, there's a small wooded strip between two houses that's probably the town might own. So there's a way to get into the park for them to use it, I think, on the football fields, right? Gillespie leases this property. I didn't do a lot of research. I only found out about this 2 days ago, and I think I did a pretty damn lot of stuff today, right? For nothing. I don't have any kids in Pop Warner. My kids in Cohoes Pop Warner. They play at the high school, you know. Hopefully he never tows my car, right? So I don't want to pay for that or have it towed, right? So I spoke to the guy, I decided on myself, let's go in this building. It's a huge parking lot back here. I don't know. It was really creepy because I rang the buzzer and he let me in. He's the owner of the building and the property. Can't even remember his name, but he listened to me, right? He listened to me, which is nobody, right? He didn't seem against trying to help out because the issue's not getting in, right? Everybody knows that. I think some probably wanted to talk about how that was the case. The issue's parking. Worst case scenario, there's always a public street, right? It's not going to be fun. There's going to be a whole different meeting with a whole different group of people here. Trust me when I tell you, complaining about the parking on the street. Don't blame them, right? But this guy is just trying to open his business. So I talked to the guy in that building. He was the only one in the building. And he listened to me for an hour. He didn't even know about this. He did receive a call from, I know who, somebody. And he didn't even, I don't think, talk to that person yet. And he listened to most of what I had to say for an hour. I can ramble. And he either pretended really well that he gave a crap, or he really did. And I think that's an exploration. I mean, I don't know how many people spent 8 hours today driving around town that looking for a solution. We're not finding a solution. We're talking about how we want to hate Pop Warner, and why would anybody want to play Pop Warner? That's silly. That's silly. There's not a person in this room, raise your hand if you hate Pop Warner. Yeah, I knew that. So, I found a solution, right? Well, I might not have found a solution. I sure as hell tried today for 8 hours. Probably got people mad at me, my customers. What, you guys want to say? I'm not as well spoken as you. So, hey, I don't speak as good as Jack, but I found a solution. Maybe someone wants to talk to me about it and realize the ACs isn't the bad guy. The sale sucks regardless because of the situation, but finding a solution, right, should be the main priority from everybody. And don't even clap.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments.
Del Pierce?
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Del Pierce. I live at 2253 Kents Road in Rotterdam, lived there for 42 years now. I reference from tonight's agenda resolution number 72.20, quoting, adopt a local law allowing for the senior living district under chapter 270 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam entitled zoning. As Jack referenced earlier, the 3rd Department Appellate Division Court in Albany recently found that this change requires a supermajority, at least 3/4 of board members, in order to approve the zoning change. I come to you tonight, again, to ask that you do not go forward with your plans to adopt this law. As has been said by many taxpayers in this room and through correspondence, this senior living project doesn't make any sense for an area that has always been zoned residential and agricultural. If allowed, it will have a very negative and permanent impact on scores of residents along Helderberg Avenue and the intersecting side streets. Let me first address the issues of the senior living development by first quoting Supervisor Thomas Zone from the February 21st article in the Gazette, and I quote, "We want to take care of our retired and senior population and have a place where they can be independent and age in place, close quotes. The CDC defines aging in place as the ability to live in one's own home and community safely, independently, and comfortably, regardless of age, income, or ability level. Let me break this down. One's own home, check. There are independent living units. Regardless of income level, I don't know, do we have any idea at all what the costs are to live there? If a senior has to move to assisted living, what does that cost? And will there always be a spot for a current resident of the development? National costs are anywhere from $2,000 for bare bones basic assisted living to $10,000 per month based on amenities and other services. If a person has to be moved to the memory care site, national statistics show this cost to be approximately $7,000 a month. Until we get some idea of the cost to live and remain at this proposed site, we won't know if this will be affordable to the people of Rotterdam or maybe just people from Loudonville. Finally, and I speak from personal involvement in this at a family level, what happens when you become ill and infirmed and unable to care for yourself? This project has no skilled nursing center on their site. If you get to this stage of your life, your family will have to find another place for you, and it may not be in close proximity to Rotterdam. Our town needs to present itself as a community that is truly in touch with and responsive to all of its citizens' needs, including seniors. That means that our primary responsibility is to offer a thoughtful and responsible path forward for our residents. This project does not meet those needs.
Thank you.
Robert Cabrera, 51 Rotterdam Street. Had a conversation with Mr. Thomasone in July, and he gave me some advice about staying off social media. Okay? Unfortunately, I did not follow his lead, and what I read today, I was totally disgusted, embarrassed that I live in this town, with the way the people in this town attacked Raphael was disgusting. The things that were said, the slanderous things that weren't even true about this man. This man is family to me, all right? He works 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365, all right? He has built a small business, which was part of my uncle's business. He's built a small business into a very large business. And he is a very giving man. And the things that were put on the internet about him were just disgusting. It made me embarrassed that I live in this town. And I love this town. And anybody who knows me, I am so youth-oriented, it's not even funny. I was president of Little League. I was involved for years with Little League. And that's just disgusting what this man is going through. Disgusting. And what my cousin's going through. Disgusting. Because nobody wanted to get the facts. They just wanted to jump on the bandwagon and pile on this man. He's not taking over the Pop Warner field. He's buying a depreciated, a broken down building. All right? His intention is not to throw kids out in the street. His intention is to build a business. Okay? And if that's wrong, maybe we're all wrong. Jack said the Pop Warner knew about this 10 years ago. My question would be, what have you been doing for 10 years? If you knew 10 years ago, what did you do? When we knew we were losing Little League fields, I got together with Steve. I got together with this legislature. For 10 years, we walked in the mud. Me and Randy Pasquarella up to our knees in mud. All right? The leagues ended up combining, everything ended up good. But my question would be, what have you been doing for 10 years? If you knew this was gonna happen, I live in this town, I've never heard of one fundraiser to buy the building. Never. But instead, we took the easy way out and we attacked Raphael. It's wrong. It's not the Rotterdam way. It is not the Rotterdam way. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Vice Mayor,
Donna Cleveland, 1260 Floral Avenue. First of all, I'm here to speak on behalf of Rotterdam Pop Warner. If you don't know me, I've been involved with Pop Warner for 26 years. And I can tell you from a board perspective from Rotterdam Pop Warner, we haven't attacked, or if anyone did attack the buyer of the property, that was not our intention. Our intention is to protect our program, that's all. Yes, we've known for 10 years when our lease agreement or our agreement with Mahonison was up that building could have been sold. Quite honestly, it's been on and off the market for 10 years, and they're right, it has been 10 years. We were in no way financially able to even make any kind of attempt to buy that building. We have used the building, we pay our utilities there, we take care of the field, we maintain everything. Sometimes we do have to go to Mahonison for a few repairs that we can't make because we are only privy to part of the building. We have a very small portion of the building. Our problem isn't, we understand you all have nothing to do with the sale of the building. We've known it was coming, we understand that. Our problem is that we aren't gonna have access to the field, which is ours. We do lease it from Gillespie, we have for years. We just renewed the lease. That's our problem. We're not upset necessarily that they sold the building. We get it. That's business. We do understand that. However, and I know people have been making, many comments about how can we get to the field. The property behind us is private. If they're willing to work with us, we're willing to work with them. We just found out about this. Yes, we've known it was for sale, but we just found out it was sold. We're doing the best we can. We have a very small board. We're all volunteers. I've been there for 26 years. My kids were in the program for 6 of those 26. We're doing our best. My concern with you all actually is the fact that you may make that zoning change, which would allow the company that's going to buy it to be able to use it the way they want to use it. Even if that happened and we were able to access the field, let's say we could, we're still talking about 100 cars, they want to park back there. How safe would that be? We're still going to be in that vicinity. How safe would that be for our youth? We talked about, this town talked about doing community park, a big park, and you were going to include, I remember distinctly, Rotterdam Pop Warner, the soccer, because soccer and football kind of go together with the field, and of course, nothing ever happened along those lines. So what I would like from you all is basically don't change the zoning so it can't be used. We have nothing against the buyer, I get it. But if you do change it, how are you going to help us? Where are we going to go? That's what we want. Where are we going to go? I know that the news contacted Mahonison and he made mention of the superintendent of being able to share the field with them at Mahonison. Yeah, they would do that, but we would have to pay for it. Right now it's our field. We don't have to pay for that. We're a not-for-profit. We don't have a lot of money. We do fundraisers to the best that we can. It's tough these days to get people out there to fundraise, believe me. So I'm here today to say, if this all happens, how are you going to help us? Because that's what we want to know. Thank you.
Jackie Torres.
Jackie Torres, 1326 Paul Ave. So I didn't necessarily come with the intention of speaking, but I kind of got thrown to the wolves. But
We're not wolves.
on top of what I was given here, I also want to add, I live right in front of the Pop Warner field, and I also have nothing against the buyer. I get it. Sales happen all the time. But part of the reason I live on Paul Ave is because I grew up there. I grew up at the Pop Warner field, and I said, that's where I want to raise my family. I remember riding my bikes in those streets. We hung out down at the field, even though we weren't playing. We just went to the concession stand and watched the cheerleaders and watched the games. And the memories were so great. That's what I wanted for my kids. And I have 2 kids, and one of them is on Pop Warner. And my daughter did cheerleading prior, so I've been involved in Pop Warner for quite some years here. But I just don't want that taken away from them. And before I get into the Pop Warner aspect, my concern as a homeowner there, and I'm also in real estate, so it's the cars being stored down there, and I get that's his business and that's absolutely acceptable, but the cars being stored down there is definitely going to change the property values in the neighborhood. When people are buying houses, external obsolescence is a huge factor in when they purchase or what they decide to purchase. So as a homeowner in that neighborhood, I'm concerned about that, and as a mother in that neighborhood, I'm concerned that that's where my kids play, and how are they going to get the cars down there, and where are they going to be driving by. Those are my concerns as a parent and, you know, a homeowner there. But also with relation to Pop Warner, just the sports have such a great impact on the kids, and it's very valuable. And it teaches them camaraderie, it teaches them perseverance, it aids in building their confidence, teaches them teamwork, which we saw huge last year with our team. They've never played together. It was a bunch of 5-year-olds, you know, and it helps them to build pride. They played their championship last year for 7.5 hours in the rain and took home 2nd place. They were amazing, and they all worked together, and I've never seen 5 and 6-year-olds play like that. And it teaches them that there's something bigger than just themselves. They started to care about other people. All of these lessons are lifelong ones, and their value grows, and it's immeasurable. And the same cannot be said necessarily for money or property values or reputations. The value of money changes almost daily. Property values change depending on the surroundings. Reputations change when irresponsible decisions are made. And we feel that the rezoning of the parking lot wouldn't be the greatest decision for the neighborhood and for our field. Yes, they're saying that there are solutions we could find, and while that may be true, how are we going to have access to the bathrooms? How are we going to have access to the concession stands? Those are in the buildings right now, and Pop Warner, with the fundraising, you know, we don't have an excess of funds to be able to just create a building with a bathroom and a concession stand to host these games and to host our players and to make it a comfortable environment for people. So we don't want to teach our kids how to make decisions based on money. We want to make them based on family and based on community. And again, I'm born and raised in Rotterdam, and I would like to continue to stay here. But as a mother with my kid playing Pop Warner, I don't have anywhere else to go if Pop Warner goes. I can't send him to Mahanasin. They're tackle. He'll be 7. I'm not putting my 7-year-old in tackle yet. I'm really wanting another year of flag. I don't want to send him to Shelmont. I'm Mohan proud, all the way. My kids go to Mohan, I went to Mohan. I would like to stay in this community with our Pop Warner field.
Marilyn Kingsbury.
Hi, my name is Waylon Kingsbury, live at 1223 Pinewood Ave. Been a resident of Rotterdam all my life. I have concerns for both sides, speaking for myself, of course. I met Raphael a few years back prior to any of this that's going on currently. Very nice man, stand-up guy. Has helped my family out multiple times. Guy is just trying to make a living. He's been a part of this community for a while, and obviously still wants to be a part of this community with what's going on now. with that being said, I also have concern for Rotterdam flag as well. I have a son and a daughter, both have been in the program for years. Daughter is involved in cheer, which really hasn't been mentioned in any of the discussion, and football as well. I used to play on that field going back to the Draper days, not to age myself. But going back to what, I forget the gentleman's name that spoke earlier, the handyman. Instead of picking a side, Rotterdam flag is a team. And also part of this community. As a community, why don't we get together, be on the same team, try and figure out a solution, and getting back to the solution, I walk my dog and my children in the neighborhood all the time. We play in the park by the old WMHT building. To me, as he had said, that could be a possible solution. We go through there multiple times a week. And like I said, instead of pointing fingers, everybody should get together as a team. There hasn't been an outcome yet, so let's figure out a solution where everybody's happy and have a positive outcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I only want to say a couple of things, and I don't want to take anyone else's comments away from them here, because I think other board members want to make comments also. So for those of you that don't know, I live right next to the Pop Warner Field. My house is on the corner of Remsen and Paul Avenue. I watched Jackie grow up on that road, and I see her kids every day. So anyway, I'll leave you at that. But it upsets me that I don't go on social media, Bob, and there's a reason for it, like I told you when I saw you. I hear enough things. You know, people typically will just reach out to me with anything that it is that they're looking to talk about. And I like that. I like speaking to people one-on-one. I don't want to speak to people through social media, because I think, unfortunately, what happens is we lose a little bit of what it is our intention really is. So I heard tonight everyone wants a solution, so do I. And I think so does ACs, and so does everybody else here, because we're fortunate to have good business people in our community, and I think everyone understands that. And we appreciate what people do here in our town, the jobs that they provide and everything else. Now, I've made calls over the last few weeks myself, and I don't want to go into any details because I'm one person and I can't make any kind of overtures or guarantees at all. But you know, everyone here wants to reach a solution, and I think we'll reach some kind of a solution. Now, there's been conversation about the paper, what we term as a paper street. That's Astor. There is a piece of property that looks like an undeveloped lot between two homes, and it goes right into the field. So I think, well, two things that we need to understand before we move forward here, and I want other board members to take some time before we go into our agenda to discuss this, because this is important to us. I take exception to people's comments when they think that we don't care about youth. Frankly, in my role in town government, prior and now, I don't think that you will find people that are more dedicated to make sure that we get our parks up to snuff, and parks that we have in existence, to get them to be highly utilized by the public. We rebuilt 3 basketball courts in town. We've done more improvements, in my opinion, in the last few years than probably happened in a long time. There are other things that are coming down the road. The town can't just go out there and say, hey, we would like to buy 40 acres of property and you want to sell it to us now. Because what happens? The price just goes up. And so what I'm trying to get at with you, we need a long-term plan. That's why we're going through the comprehensive plan process. There's other things that I think will come down the road. The highway superintendent and I never had a chance yet to talk about that access and so on. So, and that's for, I think, a near-term future discussion, because it's going to take more than just, well, is this property going to be sold and is it going to be used for something else? First of all, there's no zone change that's necessary. I want you all to be aware of that. So I don't know where the info, again, social media, whatever it is, I don't know where this zone change piece comes from. So that there is no zone change necessary. The property is already zoned for a number of different uses. So again, the comprehensive plan process, we'll start to talk about some of these areas of the town where we already have certain zoning in place, whether it's agricultural or industrial. Do we want to maintain that? Do we want to change it? So there's a lot more discussion to be had. But I want you to know that you have my commitment that we're gonna find some ways to make everything work out for everyone concerned. And more importantly, I would ask us all to be respectful of each other and not go, and because our children are the ones who see our actions. And that's important to me as a parent, it's important to me as a resident. So I appreciate that you brought the kids here tonight too, because as you can see, I'm sad. So I have, my grandson lives next door to me, by the way. So my kids are right there. We're all in the same neighborhood. So know that we hear you, and we'll move forward. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Twiston.
Are you MHTs for sale as well?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, not that I'm aware of. And one of the things I want you to know, as far as real estate goes, I would love to know when things are for sale. And what I mean by that is this: is that we have parcels, where our town parks are, for example. And those of you that are familiar with Carmen Park or Memorial and some of the Esposito Park, I would always love to know ahead of time if somebody's going to sell one of those houses there, because it would be great for us to expand our parks a little bit where they exist too, because there's other needs that we have adjacent to those parks as well. So, but we don't know. It would be great for us to know ahead of time if something like that were to happen. And I don't mean for us necessarily, but more for you and maybe for anyone else that might want to do something creative there in an agreement. But I think in the short term, we've got to look at Astor and find a way to have access to the property regardless. I brought this up many years ago, and we talked about emergency access, okay, to the field, because right now, I've gotten different information from different people, so I don't want you to misinterpret me. But for myself, when I because I've lived there for so many years, I myself and the highway crew at the time, we're talking over 10 years ago, we actually widened out the entrance there. And the reason we widened out the entrance was because all you have to do is try to see an ambulance, try to get down that road the way it was before. And when we asked people not to park along the fence line so that an emergency vehicle could get in and out of there very easily. And of course, those signs disappeared. But anyway, that we put up, this is no parking. We put those up with the intention of hoping people would understand why we did that. So I think Astor has to be looked at regardless of what happens here, not as just access to that property, but also for an emergency access perspective, because the quicker than an ambulance or someone else can get in there and care for someone who is injured, particularly a child, is important. So I'll leave you with that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First of all, I'd like to welcome the parents and the players from Rotterdam Pop Warner. I think the supervisor said it best, is that we should remain respectful because of the fact that our children are watching. No different than a child watching parents screaming, yelling at each other in their own home. Secondly, please know that every one of us on this board, especially myself, hold a high regard for all of Rotterdam's youth and their organized sports. I was privileged to play on Rotterdam Soccer League's first team back in the late 1970s. And my father's business, Top Steiner, was the original sponsor of that. Which brings me to one of my points. Before we move to demonize family businesses and families like the Caprera family, remember that these are the same people that sponsor many of our teams. Bobby is very youth-oriented. He was president of Little League, and before that, in many years, so was his father. And his Uncle Al, if I remember correctly, Bobby was always a sponsor of a baseball team, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
That's right. It's these very small businesses. I know I do a lot of dine to donates for a lot of different organizations, and it's my pleasure to do it. We did a couple for the Little League this year. I would love to host one for Rotterdam Pop Warner. But most importantly, nobody here is taking your concerns lightly. There are some challenges, but there's always a solution if we work together to find a solution, okay? No one on this board is taking a, well, it's just too bad approach. No one here, and this was, I felt, a very ignorant statement, no one here wants to wipe out any program. There's no value in that. We all, everything you said about children's
I just want to say how well behaved these young men are. I can't believe they've sat there quietly, even on fitness.
Teamwork.
Yeah. Must be the discipline you're learning from football.
Yeah. Okay, let's move into the resolutions. Are we have no one else on the list? Okay, let's move into the resolutions. Resolution 70.20.
Adopt the meeting minutes from the February 12, 2020 town board meeting.
I'll move. Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please? I'll second. Second by Mr. Guidarelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 7020 passes. Resolution 7120.
The town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby introduces local law number of 2020, which rezones the following properties or portions thereof to a senior living district. Tax maps number 71.5-1-5.112, 2188 Helderberg. 71.5-1-7.1, 2196 Helderberg. 71.5-1-5.111, 2200. 71.5-1-9, 2204 Helderberg. 71.5-1-8.111, no address. 71.5-1-8.112, 2208 Helderberg. 71.5-1-10.21, 2212 Helderberg. And 71.9-2-21.11 Browns Farm. The local law would change the properties or portions thereof listed above from the agricultural A1 zoning district to a senior living district, amending the zoning map to show the boundaries of the senior living district. The town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby finds that there are no significant adverse environmental impacts from the proposed senior living district local law or the project which were not already thoroughly evaluated in the DEIS and the FEIS, and hereby determines that a supplemental environmental impact statement is not necessary, and the town board reaffirms the SECRA statement of findings adopted on July 11, 2018. The town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby refers the local law and the change of zone to both the town of Rotterdam Planning Board and to the Schenectady County Planning Department as required by the Chapter 270 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam and the New York State General Municipal Law, Section 239-M.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Miller Herrera, is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone in the question? So, I'm gonna save my, I'm gonna save some of this for the meeting, next month, but, I'll have some substantive comments to make through this process, and, we'll go from there. So, anyone have any comments? Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
In the interest of sending it to the proper agencies, I vote yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
I voted no prior on this. Not that I'm against the senior living district, I'm just not in favor of this as written. I think there needs to be some compromises made on this. I think we need to evaluate what are gonna be the costs to live there. And like I said, as written, I'm not in favor of this, I'm voting no.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, resolution 7120 passes. Resolution 7220?
Call for public hearing to be held on Wednesday, March 11th, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306 for the following purpose: to create a new zoning classification of Chapter 270 zoning, Article 31, entitled Senior Living District Local Law of the 2020.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
No.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, resolution 7220 passes. Resolution 7320?
Call for public hearing to be held on Wednesday, March 11th, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306 for the following purpose: to consider the adoption of local law of 2020, establishing a senior living district and allowing for a change of zone for property located in Rotterdam, New York, 12306, known as tax maps number 71.5-1-5.112, 2188 Helper, 71.5-1-7.1, 2196 Helper, 71.5-1-5.111, 2200 Helper, 71.5-1-9, 2204 Helper, 71.5-1-8.111, no address, 71.5-1-8.112, 2208 Helper, 71.5-1-10.21, 2212 Helder, and 71.9-2-21.11 Browns Farm. The town board recommends a change of zone from agricultural A1 to senior living district SLD for a project to be known as the Whispering Pines Senior Living Community. The Whispering Pines Senior Living Community is to generally consist of the construction of 125 single-family homes, townhomes or detached, 119 independent living units, 108 memory care units, 144 assisted living units, reconfiguring the existing 18-hole executive golf course into a 9-hole executive golf course that includes a new 2,500 square foot clubhouse and a 1,300 square foot maintenance building on plus or minus 90 acres. A total of 496 residential units are proposed and will be developed in up to 4 phases over an estimated 4-year period, depending upon market demands. This will be accompanied by the addition of sewer and water infrastructure and roadways, as well as stormwater management features.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
As I said previously, I'm voting no on this based on the way this is written. And in addition to that, I think the fact that we're going to consider adopting this the same night we have the public hearing is kind of fast tracking this. You know, as this resolution states, it says up to 4 phases. What are the 4 phases? How defined are they? So I'm voting no.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, resolution 7320 passes. 7420?
Refer to the Planning Commission for a report and recommendation thereon a proposed local law of the year 2020 for the following purpose. To amend Chapter 270 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam entitled Zoning to include 270-160-167D7 entitled Parking and Signage for special use permits to allow for the adaptive reuse of educational and religious buildings.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Guidarelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Mark, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
4 yes.
Okay, resolution 7420 passes. Resolutions 7520 through 8720 are under a consent agenda. Can we have a
Mr.
motion?
Supervisor, I move that we approve resolution 7520, 7620, 7720, 7820, 7920, 8020, 8120, 8220, 8320, 8420, 8520, 8620, and 8720 as a consent agenda.
Okay, Mr. Christou's made a motion. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Are there any questions on any of the resolutions? Just briefly, I'll just highlight a few. We have just change orders for work at the senior center, a change order for work that's being done in our closed landfill, more work that needs to be just buttoned up there. We have various calls for bids for different materials that are necessary for us to conduct our operations, particularly with the highway department and our water sewer areas, and budget transfers, and an agreement pursuant to litigation that we're settling. So resolutions 7520 through 8720. Ms. Mark, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, so resolutions 75 through 8720 pass. At this time, I'd like to see if the board members have anything they want to bring up under committee reports or miscellaneous.
Couple things, if.
Yeah, speak into the microphone, please, Mr. Signor.
This is my first board meeting, I don't know how to speak.
You've been there a while.
In addition, just want to let you know, last night I met with Dan DeMarco, so we are starting to plan this year's Battle of the Badges softball game. We had that last year. We're hoping to make it bigger and better and trying to include as much activities for all members of the community. So I just want to let you know that's starting to get off the ground. Hopefully we'll have that finalized, obviously, before the game. Also, we are moving forward much faster now with our 200th bicentennial celebration happening this year. So we have thrown out some ideas. We're going to be looking to do I've enlisted the aid of one of the local schools for the time capsule. We're going to probably have our own signature beer for this. We are probably going to be having and developing our own Monopoly game. And I had an idea to have, I think the character on the original Monopoly game is Rich Uncle Pennybags. I'm going to have Steve Thomasson's character on the community.
Is there some way that I have
Chance and community
to
chat.
get rid of him? No.
So we're working on that. We're gonna have to probably get past a resolution to get a caricature person to do it just right. But anyway, I just want you guys to know that we are moving fast and forward. We're looking to get some decent bands. Got one already hopefully online. And try to get a few more for our final day that we're gonna have a celebration. So that's all I have to say on that.
You asked him to speak into the microphone.
I know, I should have just.
Well, you know, you never tell an attorney to speak into the microphone and be brief, right?
All right. There are just a number of things that we have to do. I mean, there's a real punch list for, especially for the 2020.
Well, we gotta get a picture of you for the caricature.
There's a lot, there's, I really, thanks, Joe, because I know you can do that too.
Got it.
Yeah. I just don't, I forgot what I was gonna say, so I think that was their intention. But thank you all for coming this evening. Anyone else have?
Mr. Supervisor, I move to adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Christou has a motion for adjournment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Samantha, Ms. Miller Herrera. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you all very much for coming this evening. Our meeting is closed.